They all did it at certain times. They would leave their player and go rebound, and it was like really, really undisciplined basketball that we have to clean up. Luckily we could put points on the scoreboard. I do like the fact that we could put points on the scoreboard, but we can't rely on scoring 90 points every game.
Welcome onto the sideline, everybody. I'm Sports Director Matt Dowell, joining you courtside at Colonial Life Arena as college basketball is officially here. We're celebrating the start of college basketball with a special episode dedicated to the season opener for the South Carolina women's basketball team, as Dawn Staley and the second-ranked Gamecocks are opening up the season with a 40-point win over Grand Canyon. 94-54 is the final score here at the CLA. Before we get going, I have to say I've covered the Gamecocks for a long time, and this is a first for me. Late here at the CLA, I'm recording this at about 10:40 p.m. and the South Carolina men's basketball team is behind me getting some shot ups, putting some work in ahead of their season opener tomorrow night, Tuesday night, here at the CLA as Lamont Paris and the Gamecock men's basketball team get set for their season opener. But let's talk South Carolina women's basketball. Of course, high expectations as always for the upcoming season, trying to get that fourth national title, and this is a roster of 10 players that are all very, very good. And just to kind of introduce my career to you guys, for those of you who maybe haven't tuned into this podcast yet and are finding us this basketball season, I have covered the South Carolina women's basketball team for 10 years now. This is my 10th season with the Gamecocks. My first was Asia Wilson's junior season, and I've covered them extensively every single year since then. I've been with them in Paris, at the White House, all of their national championships. I'm an AP voter for women's college basketball, so I do extensive coverage of women's basketball in general, but especially with the Gamecocks. So I love college basketball. I'm so excited the new season is here, and I'm ready to dive into this season opener and some of the things that stood out to me when it comes to South Carolina as they begin this journey in the 2025-2026 season. The first thing that really stood out to me was that this is a very different looking team than the past few years. Roster-wise, usually when you go into a new season, you have that core group of players that are returning, that core identity of players. But this South Carolina team has a lot of new faces, and I find that exciting because I showed up to the CLA tonight saying, I don't feel like I know this team as well as I've known in years past. Dawn Staley told us before this game they don't really have an identity yet, and I find that exciting. You do have, Raven Johnson, Tessa Johnson, Joyce Edwards back, but when you think about it, there's no Pow Pow, there is no Fagan, there's no Bree Hull, Chloe Kitts and Ashlyn Watkins are out with injuries, Mylasia Fulwiley has transferred, Sakima Walker transferred, so a lot of the familiar faces of the past few years are no longer on this team, and it's just different, and it's going to take a lot of hard work, a lot of watching just to kind of get used to what this year's team looks like and what their identity is. But I do think that this new roster presents a lot of opportunities for this team and for all of these players to make names for themselves and to create their own identity, which is exciting. And I do have to say, the non-conference schedule isn't the hardest that South Carolina has ever had, but I do think that there are going to be challenges along the way, but they also have some leverage to really get this team and this roster the experience and the chemistry and the camaraderie together that they're going to be searching for ahead of SEC play in January. But let's talk about some of the things that I thought were good and some of the things that I thought were not so great in the season opener, which, it's a long season. There was some great, there was some bad, as you would expect in a season opener. The good that I thought is that this team can score. Their offense is the real deal. The starting five of Raven Johnson, Tanaya Latson, Tessa Johnson, Joyce Edwards, and Medina Ocote is legit. And for this to be their first game, they scored 94. They scored 91 against 11th ranked North Carolina in their exhibition last week. So the offense is there, and that is great because you're going to have to score if you want to win national championships. The bad, is going to be on the defensive end. They can still use a lot of work, and that was very evident tonight. But I think that is the case at the start of any college basketball season. I don't think any team defensively has it all together in game one. So I look at it and I say, yeah, It needs a lot of work, and Dawn Staley even said that afterwards, but it's nothing that I think anyone needs to panic over, because I think once this team just plays together more, I think they'll get it together, and this staff is so good at coaching defense. I'm not worried about South Carolina when it comes to defense. If there's one thing I'm never worried about when it comes to a Dawn Staley coach team, it is the defensive side of the ball. So it wasn't perfect tonight. It wasn't great. I don't think you expect it to be, but I think that that's exciting going forward. Also, I was surprised tonight at how long this game took. I didn't expect it to last over 2 hours, but there were 47 fouls called in this game. And I know the team can't comment on the refereeing, but I will. I think 47 fouls in a game like this is insane. So it was a later night than we were all expecting here at Colonial Life Arena. Some numbers, some stats for you guys. Tanaya Latson in her Gamecock debut with 20 points, a pretty good start for her, I would say. Medina Ocote also in double figure scoring. Dawn Staley did say she wants her to be more dominant going forward, and we heard that, when it comes to Camila Cardoso and Aaliyah Boston in the past. So echoing those same sentiments from great centers of the past. Raven Johnson was exceptional tonight. 11 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists for Raven, and if she had played a few more minutes, she would have had a triple-double, I think. She was that good. Her shot looks way better. She looks way more confident, and I think if you're a South Carolina fan, that has to be exciting for you going into this season. Raven is the glue, in my opinion. She is just a true point guard, and she is so good at what she does. And she looked very, very good tonight. And lastly, the stat that I thought was great for South Carolina is Tessa Johnson playing that 3-guard position, 19 points today. And Tessa is hoping to have a better junior year than she did a sophomore year, which was probably disappointing for her, I think most of us would say. And afterwards, Dawn Staley actually did say that. And she said that Tessa Johnson is going to be a huge, huge piece for this team if they want to win it all come April.
I mean, Tessa's been building. She's been building towards being this type of guard for the past 2 years. Great, better freshman year than sophomore year to me. She just really got serious. I don't think she liked her sophomore season. So it's on the player. It really is on the player to understand who they are, what they can be, pour into and put the work in. Tessa puts the work in. Tessa has always put the work in. Tessa probably did not get the results that she got, that she's supposed to get last year, but she probably didn't put the work in that she put in the year before. So you have to make adjustments, and she's been putting in the work. And that's what junior's supposed to look like. When they put it all together, when they trust, when they believe, and when they understand their process, that's what it looks like. I don't have to say much to Tessa. I don't. She comes to practice. She plays on both sides of the basketball. She works before, after practice. She probably comes in and practices on her own, shoots on her own. And that's the maturation process for someone coming to college. It isn't anything but that. And when they have the understanding, it ain't us that's moving the needle, it's them that's moving the needle, and Tessa's right where she needs to be. I think in the beginning our ball screen defense was a little cleaner than it was when we played UNC, and then they made adjustments, and then we couldn't quite keep the same discipline, and then when we're switching when we're not supposed to switch, and we're point switching, and I don't even know where they got that from. I really don't know where they got, let's switch. It's not been a part of who we've been. Again, though, other people come in with habits, and if that's what they do, they don't even do that in practice. It was new to see that, and it was not just one. It was our starting guards did it. They all did it at certain times. They would leave their player and go rebound, and was really, really undisciplined basketball that we have to clean up. Luckily we could put points on the scoreboard. I do like the fact that we could put points on the scoreboard, but we can't rely on scoring 90 points every game.
It was a great atmosphere here at Colonial Life Arena tonight because Grand Canyon is coached by Winston Gandy, the former assistant for Dawn Staley for the past 2 seasons. He's now the head coach over at GCU. That was the big story the week of the Final Four. And I actually interviewed Winston Gandy here on our podcast last week about his emotions returning to the CLA and this season for him being a head coach for the first time. So you guys can go back and listen or watch that interview that was posted last Thursday. But it was just a really awesome atmosphere tonight. It was very friendly. It was warm. And remember, this is the first time South Carolina's had a season opener at Colonial Life Arena in the past since 3 years ago, because they were in Paris 2 years ago. They were in Vegas last year. So it was kind of nice to be back here in Columbia at the CLA, a place that is just so familiar and so electric for this team. And Winston Gandy definitely felt that. South Carolina was honored for their SEC championships before the game, as well as their Final Four rings. And Winston Gandy did get his, as of course he was a part of that team. So it was just a really cool atmosphere here at the CLA tonight. And you know, he did say after the game he got to be on the opposite end of what he and his team have done to others for so long. So it wasn't a great night when it comes to the Grand Canyon perspective of this game, but Winston Gandy, he kind of knew what to expect coming into this one, and I think they're going to have a really great season going forward. And afterwards, I did get to ask him what he felt being back here at the CLA tonight, but being on the other bench now as the head coach of Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I think it was a little weird. I mean, even coming in, I think I went to the wrong locker room. I was like one locker room off, and they all, started laughing. But, this place has been great to me. Obviously, I didn't spend a whole lot of time here, but you wouldn't be able to tell by the sense of community. Dawn obviously hasn't just built a great program. It's been the community as well. And so to be able to come back here, see a lot of familiar faces from that standpoint, obviously, again, you see players, obviously, that you worked with, that you saw grow, again, this is a hard game. I can see why people probably don't like doing it, because it's kind of bittersweet, if that makes sense. But really, really cool to see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of growth, which for me, that's why I'm in this game, is to impact young women's lives, and so to really kind of see that on both sides come to fruition is really cool.
So a really, really good opening night for South Carolina, a 40-point win over Grand Canyon, and that wasn't the only news of the day. We're just now starting the 2025 season, but they already made an announcement when it comes to 2026, and that is that they will be playing an opening next season in Paris once again. Of course, they were the Trailblazers that started the We Play event 2 years ago against Notre Dame, the first college basketball game to ever be played overseas in Paris. So I got to be at that game. It was just one of the experiences of my lifetime. South Carolina announcing, though, that they're going to go back next year and open their season against Maryland in 2026 over at Adidas Arena in Paris. So that's exciting news for Gamecock fans. And I have to say, if you didn't get to go 2 years ago, you should do it. It is just the trip of a lifetime. It's something you will never forget. I still think about that trip all the time. I look at pictures all the time. It was just incredible. The atmosphere, the experience is just so good for everybody. So if you guys get a chance to go to Paris next year, go ahead and save up for it, plan for it, because it's just an experience that you will never, ever, ever forget. But they'll take on Maryland too, which of course is another powerhouse. So it should be a good game to open next season as well. As always, you guys, leave your thoughts on this season opener in the comments. I thought South Carolina, for all the new rotations, for all the new faces, looked really, really good. Of course, there are some things they're going to get better at. It's the season opener. It's November 3rd, and that's what you expect going forward. But overall, with all of these new faces, new players, new rotations, new lineups, I was really impressed with South Carolina in this first game. When the competition goes up, will we see that second rotation, those more inexperienced players, be exposed a little bit more? I don't know. That's a wait-and-see game. But for now, game one, I think South Carolina should be really happy with what they presented tonight, and they'll only continue to get better as the season goes on. One final injury update I should give for you guys is regarding guard Maddie McDaniel. She went down in the second half. It looked like a knee-to-knee collision. Dawn Staley says that she expects her to be okay, but it was a tough injury, but hopefully Maddie will be all right and be back on the court in a few days' time. So that's a big injury for Dawn Staley and the team, but hopefully it's nothing too serious going forward, as South Carolina does host Bowling Green on Friday night here at Colonial Life Arena. And it's another assistant coach who is now a head coach that is coming to Colonial Life Arena, as Fred Schmiel, the assistant before Winston Gandy, is of course the head coach at Bowling Green. He coaches them, and they'll be here in Columbia on Friday night. As always, leave your comments here on YouTube. Let us know what you guys think. What were your big takeaways from this first game? Send me your questions. What do you guys want to know about the season as we go on? Because we'll be doing extensive coverage of South Carolina women's basketball from now all the way through the end of the NCAA tournament. We won't be doing instant reaction episodes every single time because, that's a lot. There's a lot of basketball games in a week, but I thought this first game deserved its own episode. But let us know your comments here on YouTube. And if you guys are listening to us on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon Music, chime in. I don't know how, but find a way. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. I always like reading your guys' thoughts and picking the brains of the fams who are so knowledgeable when it comes to this women's basketball team. Make sure to like and follow us on YouTube or on Apple, Spotify, or Amazon Music. We'll be back for more interviews and episodes later on this week. I'm Sports Director Matt Dowell. Thank you guys always for watching and listening. I'll see you back here at Colonial Life Arena throughout the season.